right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Got the crew here today. Tyler's unboxing figurines. What you got there?
Yeah. I got the new Deadpool figurine.
Yeah.
I just need to figure out. There it is. Oh yeah. How does this guy go in here?
See, Tyler has a daughter, and he's the one who gets to play with toys.
True story. True story.
Yeah. Yes.
Maximum effort.
Lovely.
I can go right
Yeah.
over
So
here.
the real Netforce appears. So I'd like everybody to give a big welcome to Alan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good today.
Yeah. Right on. For anybody who is unaware of who Netforce is, I see that comment there. Who is Netforce? Who are you? No, just kidding. Netforce is the one and only legendary Netforce in core communities. Alan is the legendary Netforce in core communities. Many people know him, but he is. I don't know how would you describe yourself?
I'm kind of around a bunch of forums, Reddit, Headphone, all these places.
Yeah.
Been in the community since like 2013, and just been around a while. Talked to a lot of people, and yeah.
And he used to work for the Source AV, and now he works for Headphones.com. So, big welcome to the team and congrats.
Thanks.
Yeah, so basically, if you guys ever have questions for me, he's the one who. No, just kidding. But yeah, actually, I figured we might as well start by, I guess, asking you, Alan, because sort of we've gone through sort of like our story and how we found this hobby and found this I guess subculture. What's sort of your trajectory for getting into headphones and audio and just that type of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm based here in LA, and in around 2013, I was building my first computer, and I knew about like Headphone and some of the headphones at the time. So, I got a little involved back then, built the computer, and then, did some research and, got like a pair of like AKG K240s and like a little FiiO player right in the beginning. But I was already on Headphone, just like, talking with some guys. So then, then it progressed and it's like, oh, well, what if I get this like Hifiman HE400? And then in LA, we have a lot of events, shows, dealers, and stuff like that. So I was started going to events first, and then the events, like some of the Headphone LA meets eventually became like can jams. So I went to a lot of can jams. And over the next few years, just started posting a lot on the forums, getting and exploring a lot of different headphones myself. Around 2016, I joined Questyle.
Oh, wow.
So I was there for around a little over a year, traveling to shows, answering questions online, being technical support here and there, kind of thing. So, I got to know the business aspect on that. And then around 2017, I joined the Source AV. So I worked in a retail setting for headphones for a little over 3 years. And then just recently joined the Headphones.com crew. So pretty happy to be here.
Yeah, wicked. So you've been sort of like I guess entrenched in the industry now for a while, which is awesome. And I think so. Everybody sort of has our like Tyler and Precogs and myself, like everybody sort of knows our picks for like our favorite headphones. But what type of headphones, like what style of sound do you gravitate to? I see you got the HD800s there. Is that your jam?
So for many years, I would say I had a lot, or I still do have a lot of like hi-fi mans, be it from the HE400 that I started with, but over the years I would get 400S, 500, HE6. So, I've gotten kind of the whole gambit of planars, and also had a bunch of the Dan Clark Audios and Odysseys. So for many, many years, I was a big planar fan. Nowadays, so like last year on September, when I was still working at the source, we or at least Sennheiser, they did the 75th anniversary edition HD100S, and I saw them and I was like, I need them, kind of thing.
What was the reason that you needed to, just for the look?
Well, I would say I'm kind of a collector of sorts, right? So, with the limited edition gold color, I was like, man, I should really get that. And so, props to the Sennheiser rep for essentially securing a set, just because, I think he told me something like only 40 actually came into the country for dealers. So I was able to actually get one for myself. So mad props to him for helping me out on that aspect.
Yeah.
So I got it, and then been using it ever since September, just because one, it's sounds so good, very comfortable, but at the same time, I do use EQ on it, get it Harman curved, and
right on. Tyler died inside a little bit hearing that. But for anybody who's unaware, the limited edition is a colorway that's just a little different. It's some more you can see it there. It's, I don't know what you would call that. It's sort of like a more kind of tan almost, like
they're going for gold.
Okay.
But it came out more tan.
See, what would be funny is, but the rest of the headphone hasn't changed. It's the same.
No.
So, but the what would be funny is if somebody bought one of those limited edition sort of tan gold ones and then painted it, because I know a lot of people are painting.
I'm planning on painting mine eventually, so
yeah. You could paint yours the same color, Tyler, as say it's the limited edition one.
Limited edition. I'm probably gonna go for a purple galaxy look, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. The first coat of paint can be the gold. By the way, I see Marius. Thanks for the super chat there. Again, I don't know, what is that, an animal? Is it an onion? The sticker. Actually, Marius is one of the people who had that really awesome question for Focal. I'm not sure if you remember, Tyler.
The which one? Oh, yeah. He did. Yeah, so I sent you the information for him. He's going to give it to his daughter.
Oh, wicked. Cool.
He won this thing.
Yeah. If it ever focuses. I don't know if that's... anyways, so that's, I guess if anybody has questions in the chat for any of us, by all means. I see we got lots of good discussion going already. I see Metal 571. I see Martin. I see...
Sounds like my mic is very high pitched for some reason.
Really? Oh,
that's what
sounds normal to me though.
Sounds normal to me too.
What it is.
Awkward. Oh man, I had a weird issue last night. This thing heavy was not cover the eyes. See, then it wants to focus on freaking Ramona back there, but for whatever reason, this thing wasn't picking up the USB, and it was weird. It wouldn't output sound. It was out, so it sounded to me, but it wouldn't. I don't know. It was a weird thing, but it turned out it was the USB on that. Anyways, random, fun stuff. Troubleshooting. Live chat.
Sorry, if the sound is weird, guys, let us know. But because everything sounds fine on our end and all the levels are good, so I hope it's not another technical issue. But yeah, I saw actually. I wanted to ask Tyler, so this past week, what have you sort of been up to? What have you been listening to and I guess enjoying lately? I saw you in the comments there, and you did the live stream of the Kennerton thing, so I wanted to get your sort of Cole's notes on that stuff.
Oh, so I have actually in the corner Kennerton Valley.
Yeah.
It was the drop model, so it doesn't have the newer headband,
right.
And it sounds decent for what it is. I personally, I have the Aeolus. The Aeolus spanks the crap out of it, so it's not. It's it's good enough. Like I said in the thing, if you're looking to get these or a Verite or more expensive headphone, but you kind of want a more entry level, kind of warm sounding, pretty bassy thing that has that has good sound, not the most comfortable, then that's a good entry point. But and then I also did on the.
Wait,
and
sorry.
I messed up.
How much did I miss that? How much is?
I think Drop has them for like $500. I think that's the.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but then they go on the main side, I think, for like 900 euros, so $1,000+.
Right. So that's the weird thing with some of that stuff, man. Like, so for example, I have the Odin, which is but the LSA version of it, which is what's his name?
Same.
Well,
different.
But LSA is Underwood Hi-Fi. So basically, what they did is they took an Odin. And then put their I guess label on it, and then but then they actually redesigned it a little bit. So it's the Odin driver with some of the FEC tuning, which I love the names of those headphones. But it's a weird one, man. I'm gonna be doing a review of it soon, but it's a weird
That's
headphone.
how I felt about those.
It's weird, but not necessarily in a bad way, right? Like it's something unique, I guess.
Yeah, and then I did the live stream on the new headphone dealie that we're testing.
Oh yeah, how did that go? Yeah,
it was pretty interesting. Apparently Twitch doesn't do auto save. You have to do that toggle, and I didn't realize that. And so as soon as the video is done, it's just gone forever. So it's like an hour of video for limited release. But I did a comparison of these. Speaking of gold.
Oh, you got those now.
Oh yes, these things are beautiful.
Yeah.
Gold flake with blue, very beautiful. Rad Zeros versus the. Not necessarily versus, but just in comparison, the Empyreans, and then I also have the headphones here.
Head to phones.
Head to phones, the big boys in the bunch.
Yeah. So in your stream, which one? I mean, I think I know the answer to which one was winner.
Yeah, Rads are definitely more my flavor. And then the. But surprisingly, like the Empyrean is actually really good if you like, for me anyways. If I was only listening to like warmer music, hip hop, EDM, bassy stuff, it's actually really fine. And then I also did notice
hit you in the beamies.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's weird about it. Is all of a sudden you'll go into like a track, because I listen to a lot of random tracks I listen to my music on random, so it's never it never stays in the same genre. Yeah. And so all of a sudden you'll hit like a treble track or acoustic or a high vocal track with like females or male vocals, and it gets also just like, and it breaks you out of that mood, right? And that's my biggest flaw with that.
Yeah.
Also weird, I found for me listening to Spotify the same tracks that it sounded better than on Qobuz.
Weird.
Yeah. So
the lower res.
Low res, man.
Yeah, it sounded better. So this is good. I'm probably gonna get tons of hate for that. But
Fits with the Empyrean. I don't know. Just kidding.
Yeah. But I mean,
someone's really mad right now.
Yeah, someone's gonna get super angry at me. But like, I think that with the Empyrean, it's one of those divisive headphones where I think you're gonna love it. You're not gonna necessarily hate it. I don't think that's accurate, but you're not gonna think it's necessarily worth it for the cost of the sound. I think design and comfort are worth the cost, but the sound is not in that same.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that's been sort of the understanding. Yeah, the consensus. Yeah. Precog, your this week's I guess fun stuff that you listen to. I know you've had a lot of fun with the Galaxy Buds. They're the G Buds Pro.
They're really good. Then I also got to listen to the FiiO FD5 and the new Tanchum Darling IEM.
Oh yeah.
So
actually, we should talk about the Darling because I have it here as well.
Yeah, Darling it's really, really interesting.
It's weird, man. I don't know. I gotta try the
treble
final
region,
tips.
I think, and then the ear compensation. But yeah.
Cool. And I noticed you were tweeted by your review was tweeted by Sean Olive. So getting that mention from Mr. Research himself.
Right.
Good. We still gotta have him on the live stream at some point, so I'll have to reach out and shame him into participating.
Oh no.
It's more fun when you can have that sort of Twitter banter, I think. And he's a good guy for that. Metal571 says those purple VCs are seducing him. So and for Alan, I understand you have some new Hifimans that you're trying out as well.
Yeah. So just got a few things. So I just got the Anandas over here.
I have the Bluetooth version here somewhere, but yeah.
Wicked. So I have the Anandas here, and then also got the Sundaras also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your take?
So like the previous times that it's been like many years, maybe like last time I heard the Sundaras was 2018. So, this is probably like the newest version, latest tuning, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it definitely does sound like a step up over it. Still, not super slammy, but at the same time, just added some EQ, got a little bit better.
Yeah.
Anandas, right? They're cool. Definitely a little bass shy for me, but at the same time, it's nice getting because I used to have the HE 1000 V2s for a while.
Right.
So the Anandas, they are a step down from it, but not that big of a step down in my opinion. If you can essentially give it a bunch of juice, give it some little bit of a bass shelf, it gets better.
Yeah. And it's funny, like those are the ones that sort of they do measure well in the bass, like they have good bass extension, but for whatever reason they don't have the dynamics, and it's like it's one of those things I've been talking with Matt Economist about, because he seems to think maybe it's just due to the coupling, right? That the bass, it might measure well, but because of the coupling, it doesn't actually, like, all the air pressure goes out instead of in, something like that. I don't know. So I need to do more investigation of that stuff too. But the question is, because you used to have the HE 1000 V2, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, is the Aria the same driver?
I don't know. I haven't. So I want to say,
spot.
yeah. So I'll do the kind of cop out answer and say I haven't heard Aria enough to say definitively. Like the last time I heard it for a good while, I'm pretty sure like the pair that like this was back when I was at the source. Like I'm pretty sure the pair that the guy brought in had something wrong with it, just because it like sounded dark, it sounded like kind of nasally and congested, and I think he may have blown it. So
Right.
and when I told him, it's like, I'm really used to this airy detailed presentation, and this is kind of the complete opposite. So I think there's something wrong with this headphone, and I never heard back from him regarding that, but yeah. So
Hard to say.
Yeah. I would need to get some more time with the Arias to verify that on my own.
You know what I'm interested in is the HE6SE V2, whatever iteration it's on.
The meme that's going on right now.
The Adorama. Well, Android hyped it up like crazy, but I can understand, and the FR looks pretty good. I mean, if you add a bass shelf, it looks pretty darn good. So
you just need a speaker amp and you're good.
$40
one.
But what
$2,400.
Well, actually, I think less so these days, because there are so many amps now that were designed around the HE6 back then, like back when the HE6 was like, the thing, and all the amp manufacturers were, sort of having an arms race to see, who could have more power for the HE6. Can it drive the HE6? It was like the Can It Play Crisis meme, right? And so a lot of manufacturers, amp manufacturers, produced amps specifically for that. So I think these days there are enough amps that are not too expensive that could drive the HE6. It's just you have to make sure you get the right synergy. And then the question is like HE6 SE versus the OG HE6, and which is better?
Like a 4-screw versus
all that stuff. But see, actually, looking at the FR, Android's FR of the HE6 SE looks better than the original HE6. So I don't know. I'm curious about that. And I reached out to Hifiman and see if they wanted to, send me a loaner or something, but I haven't heard back from them yet. But the crazy thing about that was that the Adorama deal, I don't know if it's still around. The Adorama deal for what, $700? Yeah, it's insane.
You can still get it. You just have to have like that special link.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Like that it's like over $1,000 off. So they must be trying to clear them out. Send them off to Adorama, and then off we go.
And I talked to a bunch of people, and everyone that has bought that is basically saying if you don't buy it at the $700 price point, it's not worth.
Yeah, like you wouldn't buy that at the original price point. But
Yeah.
I think right now, like I don't think there's a bet, like provided you can get the synergy right with an amplifier, right? A specific amplifier. I think that's like one of the best deals available in headphones.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy. It's like what, a Focal Alex level price, and like I would take an HE 500 over a Focal Alex easily.
I think it kind of falls into that category too of you know, a lot of people want to know what the latest and greatest thing is, right?
Yeah.
The HE6 was like the top of the line a couple years back.
Yeah.
And it's like it's still a top of the line.
Even
headphone.
HE 500 is like that too, where it's like it's not like it got worse.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's now more competition, and they're out, you know, they're no longer sold, but which is a crying shame. But you know, that's why my question is always like, you know, with a lot of the SE models, they didn't really get better. Like for the you know, HE1, well, I mean, the HE1000 SE is clearly more detailed than the Aria and the HE1000. Like there's no contest there, but the tuning didn't exactly get any better. It got worse. So I'm like, yeah, a little bit like, what's that going to be like? But then looking at the FR, it's like, oh, actually that FR looks quite a bit better than what the original had. So it'd be interesting.
They did do some tweaks on the Adorama one, as I recall. From what
I don't know. Yeah, I'd be curious. Well, I know they have a different headband. They have the Deva headband, the dreaded. God.
I know a bunch of people that are actually modding the crap out of it, where they're like literally just like one of the guys in one of the discords I'm chatting with. He's literally, his goal is to basically replace everything but the driver.
I think. Oh, even the cups.
Yeah.
just buy the driver. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
But I think we didn't Ant use the Odyssey headband for that. Yeah, I think he did that, which makes a lot of sense. The Odyssey headbands are way nicer. I need to get the carbon one for my LCD XC. I need to get my XC back from Odyssey. But yeah.
So for me, I still have it. It's just like me and a friend were doing a little project of it. But you know, I had the HE6 4-screw version,
right.
And like one of the fun things about the original like HE6s was just doing all the mods to it just to change the sound.
Yeah.
Like the first thing I did was, just kind of take out the fiberglass in the back of it, right? And then that's when like a bunch of us on Discord also discovered you could take off the yokes and the headband and put on the Odyssey ones.
Yeah.
So on my HE6 4-screw, I did have the Hifiman, the Odyssey carbon fiber headband on it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So,
and now
I was going to ask, is the 4-screw the original?
Yeah, there's the original, like the 4-screw is like the first, and then a little bit after they came out, like the 6-screw version.
And is the 4-screw better?
It's the 4-screw. I think in like term of like the HE6 like mythos, because it was kind of like the first ones that came out. They're a little bit more consistent and a little bit different. But then they came out the 6-screw pretty soon after, so the 4-screws became a little bit rarer.
Right.
So on the used market, you probably get like a few $100 more if you had a 4-screw versus a 6-screw, even though the changes between the two itself and like on an audible level was actually fairly small. But that's like one of the other things about the HE6 that has just like such this like long lore behind it, like all these different things and whatnot. So the reason I don't have my HE6 right now, and I see him in the chat, like me and like Luis, we're working on like
I see
getting a custom shell made for it, just because the SMC's connector is pretty awful. The actual cup is pretty bad, kind of thing, right? And we just we've been playing with the idea of like making a new cup for it, and that's why my HE6 isn't here right now, just because we've kind of disassembled it just to take measurements and map it out. And so it's been a fun project.
I hope so it's really interesting to me with Hifiman, like what happens with their sort of driver evolution, right? And so ever having gone from like the HE500 or HE6 and HE500 to the HE560 and the 400i, and some of these like they basically went double-sided to single-sided, right? And they sort of went more into the budget segment as well. And then on their high end, they've switched to the HE1000 style with the the sort of egg shape, elongated cups, and I think for a lot of people, it would be nice if they still produce those HE6 and HE5 models, like, or some version of that. I know the HE6 SE exists, but I wonder, like, for where, like, why? Because there's probably still demand for the original HE6s, So I wonder why they don't keep making them or keep selling them.
I think one of the reasonings is, Hi-Fi Man over the years, they've been changing. They have a new factory. They have different equipment. So the original equipment and team also that helped produce the early HE6s, HE500s, they're no longer a part of Hi-Fi Man, or they don't have access to the same machinery. So I would never actually go ahead and just like fully take apart my HE6 driver just to see like how it would differ than say an HE6 SE driver, right? But I'm sure people at least have at least a bunch of screenshots or pictures showing kind of the differences in at least the outside of it, right?
Right. So yeah, I guess that makes a certain amount of sense. I mean, even the last year where we've seen Hi-Fi Man's latest, I guess, efforts in the planar design in general, where they moved to the double-sided Deva, double-sided and is more entry-level stuff, and the Deva HE5XX controversy, and it didn't really work. Well, so what I was going to say is like the Deva didn't really work out for Hi-Fi Man all that well. It wasn't really a home run, and I could see why they would have sent it off to drop, right, for the HE5XX for that driver. But then on the other front, you have these ideas like the HER10 stuff, where I just have to think like there's something going on there where they probably have to deal with different challenges that they wouldn't have had to deal with before, I imagine. And maybe it's from the pandemic, or maybe it's from other reasons. But because I don't know what it's like for the factories and what's all going on with that stuff. But I imagine there's some changes there that they have to accommodate. Just like every manufacturer's been hit, I guess, pretty hard by supply chain issues with the pandemic and stuff like that. So I guess I'm hopeful for 2021 and seeing what the companies sort of, if they're able to get back on track, I guess, with the good stuff that they've been doing. But yeah, precog. Okay, let's chat about the Darling and
okay.
Or was there anything? There was something else that you were. I was just wondering if you had anything else that you tried recently.
Just the FD5, but it's
okay. Yeah,
it's not great.
It's not great. Is it a 5 balanced arm or balanced armature? Or is it a hybrid?
I think it's a single dynamic driver.
Single.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a little wonky, I think, to say the least.
Like the tuning's a bit wonky.
Yeah, it's got, I don't know if it's frequency response related or if it's just the driver they're using itself, but it's got this sort of like metallic tinge to it in the mid range. Yeah. And then the treble is kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Seems like, again, another example of dynamic driver IEMs being more difficult to tune, more challenging to tune. So the Darling, what are your sort of like Cole's notes on that? I know you're putting together.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not a bad IM at all. Like few IMs I think are truly bad, and it's certainly decent, but I think the tuning caters to a certain demographic of listeners and then on top of that, the price also makes it a sort of a tough sell, in my opinion.
Yeah, how much is it exactly? It's right in
like
the
$420, I think.
Yeah, like
420 exactly.
Right in why would you buy this if not instead of the Blessing 2 price range?
Right. It's kind of a shame too, because the build quality on it is phenomenal, and I love the accessories and all of that stuff. But
it's
at the end of the day, sound is
it's I don't know how to, it's not the normal like shell design. It's like the like the final
Yeah.
F and E series had IEMs that are just more just like they stick out like that, which is interesting. And I'm always sort of like baffled at like I guess how they're able to get this. It's what, 2 BAs and a
Yeah,
dynamic.
that's the crazy
So,
part.
like,
And
how
then
do
it's a
you get
six
that in
millimeter
there?
dynamic driver. And it just
Right?
blows my mind how small it is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Pretty
know what it
crazy.
is right now, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's the usual sort of upper mid range shout kind of tuning, which, but for the technical performance, it's
decent.
I liked it.
It's pretty decent. Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm at the point now where I'm so used to the the other style with the acrylic shell and the normal ear hooks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That they going back to the other style, it's like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to try it with the final E tips. Anything on your radar for like new IEMs that you've heard of that you want to check out? Next
so I got the C Audio Yume coming in. That should be interesting because I looked at the frequency response graph and it matches the dusk very, very closely. So I might have a new total benchmark for the $200 price range.
And what driver configuration is that?
It's a 1 dynamic, 2 balanced armature.
Okay.
So that's the only really there's not much competition for that hybrid. That sort of hybrid seven. There's like the FH3, the Legacy 3, and then the Legacy 4 as well, I believe. But yeah, that should be pretty interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I also got a Hydician Viento B coming, and that's what I'm really pumped about. That's one of those.
Many people's end game.
Yeah. And the crazy thing that blows my mind is that it came out in 2014 or even earlier than that, and it's still supposed to be competitive today. And that's incredible in the IM world, which goes so quickly. Is
this okay? So something for Alan as well, but like, do you guys like, what do you think is maybe the reason why some of these, like, you don't see the Hydician Viento in North America? Like, it's hard to get, and it's I'm just wondering, like, what do you think is like the reason for some? Is it maybe just they haven't bothered to try and expand into that market? Is it more on the manufacturer side, or is it just for whatever reason, the marketing doesn't resonate with the North American audience? Or what do you think is sort of the reason for that?
So I think this, I do have some personal experiences with, where Quest Style, it is a Chinese company, but I was able to work with the North American distributor in the US. And essentially the constant issue was, they're based in China, we're based here in USA. So there's already the time zone difference. There's the language barrier. It's just, there's so much extra work involved when you have to operate with an overseas company, right? I know for Hiddleton, right? That's how I pronounce it. Yeah. They have, some dealers in Southeast Asia, right? And at least for that, they're still within the same time zone, but then they still have to communicate with them, right? So sure, maybe they'll have some, staff on hand for that knows English in a proficient way that you can communicate and do business with. But, the layers of complexities grow when you go and operate out of your own country, right? So that's primarily one of the biggest issues. Number two, their home base is Korea, right? So like, if you were to say get a custom of the Viento, right, it's just, how would that process go? I do know a friend that was able to get one by going through a Singapore dealer, but he had to get his ear impressions and then he had to get those scanned. Otherwise, it would have even taken even longer had he sent the physical impressions to Korea, right? So it's just, there's so many complexities, especially when you're in the custom market, that it's so difficult to navigate. And the biggest market for customs isn't our audience, right? It's the pro audio market, right?
Right.
So why would a pro audio musician, even if they might really like the sound of the Viento, why would they go through the entire process and wait like probably well over a month to get it when you can work with like a UE or a JH or a West Tone here in the States that can probably turn it out in a much quicker time, right?
Right.
And they, you're operating on the same time zones, you're operating also in English. It's very difficult.
Right.
When I was with Questel, we had a lot of Chinese brands approach us about us becoming distributor, and it just none of that like really worked out just because of the complicated logistics of everything. So
yeah, it's interesting. Go ahead.
It's like a huge culmination of things. They also only take wire transfer, and that slaps on another fee.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to get it at the best price possible, you basically have to go through like a local middleman, because if you buy through one of the distributors, the price goes up significantly as well.
Right.
So I think, and on top of that, they just don't really care to have a stateside presence, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, that's always the disconnect between like there's those of us within sort of the niche audiophile communities who know about this stuff and are interested in this stuff and would potentially buy this stuff, like if they were more about universals and stuff like that, but that doesn't sort of hold in view the reality of the larger market, who might be more interested in this and might be more of their actual revenue. So which is kind of a shame for us. But maybe in the future that can expand. Cool. Okay. Well, I guess I mean that's going to be an interesting review moving forward. I guess the other thing I wanted to ask Precog is how you liking that new camera there? I think everybody liked your first video there on the S8. So.
Yeah, it's definitely quite the jump from anything I've used before.
Yeah, Tyler, what was that?
Crazy.
Oh, you're muted, Tyler.
It's my new camera. It's my new A7 A7 S2 A7R S2 or A7R2.
It's the A1. It's the
A1. You guys didn't know? It's pretty fantastic. It's the best camera I've used yet.
That's glorious. So all of the awesome Instagram shots of headphones done by Tyler, they're all done on that camera, that little itty bitty.
True story. Fantastic.
I'm assuming
that's toys I got yesterday.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming that's just like a toy or a prop.
It's a limited release thing that Sony did for the A7R2, and it was originally a USB thing, but this one doesn't have the USB. But it was it's just a replica. It's and it's crazy how detailed it is. Like it's an actual full. Come on, there we go. Like you can see like the lens.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's crazy.
Like it's like a legit.
Holy quack.
Yeah.
Does the flippy screen flip out?
Oh no, it does. That'd be amazing. If it did. But I saw a Jason Bong video on it. Sorry, and then I had to have it. So
yeah, I have a little bit of a story of back at RFAF 2017. I was just started at the Source at the time, and we were invited to the Focal room where they were unveiling. I'm forgetting the Canta 2. They unveiled the Canta 2 speaker, and they showed it off, and they gave everyone like a little like miniature Focal speaker display, and they gave it to everybody, and then they gave me a bag, and it's like, oh cool, and then I like had it for all of like 10 minutes until I realized like, oh wait, they already got one. So they like came by, took it from me.
Wow. Oh my god.
Oh, you have the best stories, man. Like
yeah.
I've read so many of your stories. Like what's the most memorable one from your time working in this industry? Like, are there any that come to mind?
I got so many. Yeah, we can go and probably proceed, and I can think of some.
Yeah, okay.
It's like
okay.
I got so many that what would fit in this situation?
Yeah,
like just because like
trade show stuff. I mean, I'm a newbie when it comes to the trade show stuff, but even just my experience of that led to many stories about just like interesting stuff that happened at at those shows, right? So like everything from like when I went and talked to Fang Bian, and there was like some gamer dude there as well. Like it was just a really weird situation. But like just from one experience, right? I can't imagine it would be like being in the industry for a long time and having a
I
lot
have
more.
probably 1.5 million stories.
Yeah,
probably like half of them I can't tell
No, I know.
on,
That's-
on a public forum, but like some of
Yeah.
them are just Fong. He's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant guy. But I don't know if it's also like the language barrier or just like him personality wise.
Mm-hmm.
But he is like very blunt.
Yeah. But actually, I think part of it is like just when I was talking with him, he seemed to sort of open up a little bit, and we were just sort of laughing about stuff and just having a good time. So I think probably the setting also makes a difference for him. But yeah, I love talking to him. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just reading the comments here in the chat. Okay, so with that, we'll circle back on a story from Alan at some point of the stream. So like moving forward, I guess this year, I wanted to ask like all of you guys, like if you could pick like I don't know, something that you'd be excited about, whether it's an event or say like your, I don't know, what would be your wish list for 2021? I don't think we've done that yet. Like whether it's a headphone release, whether it's, I was actually kind of surprised, like the whole Celesti release thing, that kind of crept up on me real quick. I was like, oh wait, we're doing this, great.
Yeah. So
yeah, what else are you guys looking forward to, starting with Tyler?
Probably shows again. Yeah, I'm looking forward to going out and just seeing some of the people in the industry that I like chatting with,
like Justin and
like
Zach.
ZMF folks, and then just be able to do like the meets and stuff. Just meeting the community too. That's always fun. Fun fact: if you ever go to a meet, don't expect to listen to headphones, because more often than not, you end up just chatting and not actually listening to anything.
This is so true. This is how it's always been for like our meets, where it's like we'll bring all this gear. I remember that one that we did in Seattle, and it was like I listened to maybe 2-3 headphones.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time we were just like drinking, having a good time, having a good chat. Yeah. I listened to the RAL. I think that was the RAL, and then I listened to
the
your
Auralis
VC
and the Borealis.
Oh yeah, no, we listened to the Aurora's audio. That's right. Yeah. So when is the next like realistic?
Chicago, I think, is the next Can Jam in June.
In June. So we gotta hope that things are better by then. I mean, it's weird in Canada because the vaccine is not really available to the public, so at least not yet. So I don't know how that's gonna work, but that would be great. Any particular, I guess I know your favorite brands. So are you hopeful for more, I guess, releases? Or I know ZMF was working on that one.
Yeah, he's got the intro one he's still working on, but I think for me, as far as upcoming releases that I'm excited for, I know anything. I'm really excited for the Celesti.
You just haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. Yeah, and then that one I'm looking forward to, and then the anything else, because they were saying that they have look forward to the future, so I'm excited to see what they come up with from the future. Kind of intrigued by what Grover had to say as well. So it seems like there's a lot of stuff coming from the different headphone companies this year.
Yeah.
They keep hinting, so I'm waiting for seeing what these hints what comes to fruition.
The Euclid, I think, is something that people need to try and see if it works for them, because the technical performance was pretty interesting. So that's so Odyssey have done something now already, and Focal, and so I think
a wish would be for Sennheiser to actually do a not replacement, but an actual next evolution of the HD800. Like, I want to see that. I don't want to see a 20-year. No, I mean, the HD800 is fantastic, but I want to see like an actual like successor. The next one, like a successor. I don't want to see like that's what I would like to see, like an actual true to goodness successor to the HD800.
See, I'm the joke was that everybody wants a Sennheiser X Chronicle HD 850S, but see, I'm holding out for the Sennheiser X Chrono HD 860S. These are jokes, guys. These are not actual headphones that are coming out. But yeah, I did forget to mention the Sennheiser IE300 and what is it, IE400, like the new IEMs, which yeah, it's interesting. Okay, moving to precog for 2021. What would be your wow, my Android phone just went off. What would be your pick for or like your wish list, I guess, for 2021?
Pretty much what Tyler said. Just I want to go to my first trade show. I haven't gone to any of them. Yeah, because I basically got into the hobby when COVID just got started, so I never got the opportunity. So yeah.
Is there any like specific driver tech in an IEM that you want to see actually, succeed where it hasn't yet? Or like so for example, so my answer to that would be like, I want them to do a Luna with the tuning of the clairvoyance or something like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's what everybody wants. That's what we wanted the Zen to be. And but yeah. Not really in particular. I really want to see like the planar magnetic stuff, like the Audis, the LCD-I4 stuff. Maybe if they can make it smaller, minimize it or something like that. Yeah. Because we have the P2 had that, right? They had a planar magnetic or something.
The P2 is but it's the treble.
It's not a real one, is it?
So I need to learn more about the drivers here, because talking to Kryn, I mean, he made it seem like these were more like kind of pseudo planars. Or actually, I'm not sure if he was referencing this specifically. Maybe he's in the chat actually. But he was saying that there were a number of sort of like planar IEMs, but they weren't the same kind of tech as what Odyssey was doing. Listening to the P2, when you do EQ it actually does have good, all the same kind of hallmarks of planar tech, right? Like instrument separation, and
it just takes so much power though. I was
insane.
Trying to
it's so insane.
It off my DAB. It's not enough.
It's like HE6. And
the treble's just like shooting up. It's all air.
Yeah, and the treble is just nuts on it. But that's one where I don't know if you would be using it portably anyways because of the power requirements. So
yeah,
I'm fine EQing it. And when I did, it sounds pretty good, but still, like, I think it has the same drawbacks that a lot of planars do, which is like it has this sort of like kind of smeared and strained haziness in the mids, whereas the Euclid didn't have that problem.
Oh, so, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. But I don't know. It's there is potential there, but it's also such a challenge. So yeah, I share your, I guess, interest in what's doable with the planar stuff. So, and Alan, 2021 wish list.
So yeah, I'd probably echo, I'd love to go to shows again. Been going to, tons of shows for years and years now, right? I've known a lot of people. Yeah. But also, I can't say too much about it, but last year was kind of more or less like a very kind of a pass year when it came to a lot of releases, just because a lot of the kind of bigger full-size brands, they did have plans on new products that they more or less like put on the shelf for this year, right? Be it complications, production, et cetera, right? Regarding like, say, even a Sennheiser, like one of the things with Sennheiser themselves is they take a long flipping time to come out with flagships, right? What was like the 650 was the previous flagship before the 800 series. And that even took like many years, and we're only been like maybe like 9 or 10 years now since the original 800 came out. So I kind of spoke to this like last year when they did do the anniversary, when people weren't very happy that like, hey, it's why are you only getting a recolor HD 800S but not a new flagship? It's like, well, give them some time kind of thing, right? Just because I think the 800S that like came out like 2015, 2016, or something like that.
Yeah.
So Sennheiser, in a sense, they over-engineer to a certain level, right? It's, in my experience, selling 800Ss for like the last 2 years, I've never had any of them break on me from like a customer. They're just like, this is true. But it's the overall, Chrono aside,
cursed
800S, it's so solid of a build quality,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
people would sometimes like remark to me when I, they're feeling it in the store that like, oh, it feels, plasticky. It's like, well, there's a purpose to the madness, right? That they wanted it to be a very super light, comfortable headphone, and they used plastic to achieve this. But at the same time, they're definitely working on something. They're not just like, oh, here's an 820, guys, right? They're not just resting on their laurels. It's the 820 itself is probably an anomaly where, maybe Axel Grell just wanted to come out with that before he left Sennheiser, right?
Yeah.
But, it's Sennheiser is a massive company, so they have a lot of things going on. I still expect good things out of them. It's just got to wait for them. But I'm parroting off of what Tyler said earlier, right? When I would do like the last big meet up that I did was in end of 2019 for SBAF, and it was just very small, like 15 people were like the max, but even then we probably most of the time had something like 10-ish people, and like most of the time I just spent talking to people. Right. I had my gear that I brought, but people like just being able to do the one-on-one and connecting again. So
yeah, definitely. On the subject of Sennheiser, one of the things that I think they probably look at and evaluate is, I mean, with most of their releases, they are more budget or entry level or even mid level stuff. The 560S came out not long ago, so and it seems like there's a greater time gap between their high end releases, which makes sort of a sense if you're a company that has like profit goals, and you have to be a little bit more conscious of that kind of stuff and understanding where the market is for where you're going to make most of your money. And given how small the audience is for comparatively for the stuff that costs $1,600 or $2,000, I can see them being like, okay, like it's important that we have something there, but it's not as important as filling out the product line where we're going to get way more purchases. But then also on the same token, they still need to have the thing that puts them on the map in the high end, because companies that have you have to have something that like generates interest in like the best ever kind of that's why they have the big huge
the Sony
$50,000
A1 that just came out.
That's a perfect example. You make the thing that's super expensive and it's really good.
It's really good. And then everyone's like, oh, what's the A7 IV gonna look like? What's the next R look like?
Well, and Sennheiser with their Orpheus, but also the HE1 and all that stuff, right? And Hifiman with the Shangri-La, like it's a strategy that these companies need to kind of follow. It's sort of a competitive strategy because it puts you on the map in ways that you weren't before. And Sennheiser has, I mean, that's the thing, like as prices have shifted into the direction of the ridiculous, right? Because it used to be Sennheiser HD800 would have been around $1,500. I don't know.
$1,500-$1,600, and that was like
and everyone's like, it costs how much? And now it's like, okay, wait, like
look at us,
hold my beer.
Like what used to be like the Summit Phi of HD800 at $1,500-ish, right, is now considered nowadays mid-Phi. While like Utopia's LCD4 and Pyrians are like that Summit Phi now, right? And one could argue, the HD800S, it trades blows with those headphones. But something else that just also came to mind for Sennheiser is because they're such a large brand, that's such a global brand, right? And I think the 560S was a good example of this. When you release a product and you have such wide distribution across the entire world, right? You can probably get Sennheiser in every or nearly every country out there just because they're so spread out. But then that has its own complications of like, well, we're in 100 plus countries, but now HD 560S comes out and we can only make so many in a time frame. So it's like, well, USA might want like say like random number like 100,000 units, and we can make like 50,000, but we still need to distribute this 50,000 units all over the world. So
right.
I'm sorry, USA, with your 100,000 orders, we're going to give you 10,000. We're going to give like China 10,000 and start just distributing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably not just the fact that Sennheiser has to make a new flagship. It's just them also deciding, well, we can start making it right now, and in 2 years we'll have enough supply to probably even meet demand right in the beginning, or we can have just like this super long, delay.
Yeah.
Like, in PC hardware world, right? Everyone wants a 3080, but like they're gone instantly, right?
I want a 5950X, but you can't find those in Canada.
This is also true that Canada gets the allocation of a third world country.
It's true. For tech in general, it's pretty sad.
Yeah. Like one of my friends, like she tried to get like a 3080 Strix. She had one on pre-order since September, and the only way she was able to finally get it like 2 days ago was she imported it from the US.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Yeah. I was fortunate. I got on the list early for I think it was the Tough OC edition, and I picked that one because I knew people wouldn't be picking it.
Yeah,
because there was no real benefit to the OC edition, right? It was like it's the same card basically. Yeah, but it was just factory OC, right? And I was like, well, I'll just get that one because I know it's the worst value buy, and the waiting list will be shorter for that. And sure enough, they were really short. And then I figured, okay, the extra money that I spend on the OC edition, it's like way less than what I'd have to pay through scalping or getting from the scalpers or from importing with the conversion rate, and then also the import fees and whatnot, which are crazy, by the way, these days. But yeah, getting back onto the headphone subject, even the 560, I didn't have one available. I had to get DMS to send me one, right? Yeah. So like, even though we were, headphones.com is a Sennheiser dealer, our store. Yeah.
I had a friend send me one too. Like
there was no way that I could actually get one, so I had to rely on other reviewers. And actually, it's been awesome with all the other reviewers. Like Josh sent me something, and I'm sending something to Max. So like, there's a lot of like
cross collaboration.
Yeah, which is great. I think it works really well.
With originally with the 560s, I remember because I also did like the launch for TSAV where they told us like months in advance, like, hey, this is new product, this is the details, do you want to put in any orders? So we put in orders months in advance, and the idea was they were gonna like in mid-September announce it, and then late September be able to launch it. But even when they did the announcement, when it came time for hey, okay, well, where's our shipment, right? And it took like us like another 2 months before we saw anything in the store. So one of the things that Sennheiser, they kind of told me was like, oh yeah, we ended pre-orders on our site just because we're also getting hammered with orders, and we're getting angry customers too, right? Yeah. So like for me, that's when I decided, it's like, okay, I'm gonna stop pre-orders, because it's like I don't want to take pre-orders on something I have no ideas on, and like when it's coming. So I understand.
It's I mean, there would be something fun about being a headphone manufacturer, but something like that would also be a bit of a nightmare when you're trying to deal with so much demand. Like in Sennheiser's shoes, where you're just like, all right, we're gonna launch a product this year, and everybody get ready because it's gonna suck. Like, life is gonna get real hard for a little bit. We're gonna get death threats. But yeah. Okay, so we've been going for about an hour now. I figure we should probably get into the chat, and then we'll circle back to a story from Alan. I'm still putting you on the spot for that. Guys, if you have any questions for anybody on the live stream, leave a question with a question mark, and that way we can get to it. But I think also, I don't know, should we just go over like maybe some, because we have sort of the various different price categories that we all recommend that we've done, but I'm wondering if Alan would give his sort of the like favorite headphones under 500, favorite headphone under 1,000, favorite headphone Like, okay, let's say entry level, mid. Okay, yeah, entry level, mid tier, high tier, and summit. What would be your picks there?
Yeah. So I would say, just starting from the top and working down,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
At the flagship levels, I would say I'm probably in between two headphones, either the Utopia or the Susvara, personally. The Susvara, because I just still really big, what was it? Planar fan. Utopia, I just really love how that thing sounds in general.
The tuning is, yeah.
The tuning is fantastic.
Yeah.
For me, I don't mind a little bit of extra treble, so a little bit of a treble peak there doesn't really bother me as much, or I might like tune it down in some EQ. In the mid-range level, like I said, HD100S is kind of the new
mid-range.
mid-range.
I said it's still
level.
high end, like still.
It's like on that like borderline level of like mid-range plus kind of thing, right?
I suppose if you could get an HD800 for really cheap and then do SDR mod, and that would fit into like mid-range pricing. Yeah.
Yes. So I really love the HD100S. Big fan of. I also have an LCDX. I really love that thing. That's
what I'm wearing right now.
Yeah. So probably that's just like me with kind of everything. One dynamic, one planar. Yeah, for sure. Under the 500 category, I don't really know. There's so many options nowadays in that category that, and I'll like fully admit that it's not like a, even though I have like the Sundaro here, right? It's not one of the things that like, it's Sundaro time kind of thing, right? Yeah. If I was to like, say something right off the top of my head, HD 650 probably be the safest choice in that regard, just because it's such an all-rounder.
Well, this is 650.
Yes.
Yeah, but
650 or 6XX, like everyone knows, right? But for sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Nope.
Yeah, that was kind of it. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. There was a pause. So there's two questions. First one is Kevin asks, what Alan you'll be doing on for headphones, and then the next question was, will we be getting the new KEF true wireless IEMs in? Which I don't know if that's
what is. Thing. Okay.
KEF is you got the speakers.
That's what I have. I have the Metas, the speakers. Right. Yeah, they're speakers.
You like those?
So. I love them. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know anything about those.
But yeah.
Yeah. So at least for now, what it seems like my role within headphones.com is going to be, at least for the foreseeable future, is on the website aspect of things. I'm going to be essentially product specialist when it comes to questions. I've just been like the last 2 weeks that I've been on the headphones.com team. We've gotten a lot of emails, live chats, and there's just so many unique questions that people have, like between this headphone, what would you recommend? Or can you just help me kind of guide me through, like, do I need an amplifier? Do I need a DAC? Right? It's just the basic level questions that people have, just because it's such a unique industry, right? So like that's probably going to be the main role, like customer support at the moment. But we do have plans that I'll join the podcast or the live streams every now and then, see if I can help out on that aspect, and I can always tell those stories.
Yeah,
but for sure.
Yeah. So and that's the thing, I think, like, a lot of people don't really realize that, like, that's a lot of that stuff is what Taryn was doing before. it's like it's been we're not, it's not a very large company. We're just a bunch of dudes who like headphones. So so yeah, I mean, it's nice. It sort of frees up Taryn a little bit. But yeah, we're pretty psyched to have Alan on the team. Again, I like to joke that we just hired him for the memes, but no, realistically, he's got a very important role. So, but yeah, sorry, Tyler. What did you?
I was gonna say, the other question was, have we prayed?
I saw that.
To the Holy Slam today. May your prayers reach low and slap hard. That can be taken
Udis.
out of context. So
Is that
Yeah.
Udis?
Yeah,
Is
it's-
that
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's yeah. Borealis does have some slam, has some holy slam. So yeah,
Slam Blam Gang.
so, yeah.
Slam the Gang.
Yeah. Okay. Question for Alan
Mhm.
on the subject of slam. Slammiest headphone you've ever heard?
I want to say the slammiest headphone I ever heard was either the Abyss 1266, but that's been a couple of years since I heard that. But recently, it was probably the HE6, my four screw, on like a 300-watt Bryson. That thing felt like a truck on my head.
Is that
but-
next to speaker amp that or something like
yeah,
that?
it's a speaker amp,
Yeah.
300-watt speaker amp for the HE6. That hit like a truck, but at the same time, that was like, I just took out the fiberglass in the back, which was acting as some dampening. And as a result, it was like super shrill. But it was just like, this bass is so fun, but I'm so fatigued.
But see, that makes sense to me though. Like for people, I think like us, maybe that's.
Yeah.
I think in the industry, writ large, that wouldn't make sense. But like for us, where we are comfortable doing EQ, like let's just make sure like no damping. Like just get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah.
It could be shrill and we'll just downshelf.
Yeah.
So I want all the slam, and that's actually something I've noticed as well. It's like that Kennerton headphone there, the Odin. It has I mentioned it to some of the guys this before, but it has some of that sort of like felt material, like the same kind of material that DCA has that they put into for the damping. And you hear it, like you hear the front damping. I mean, at least I assume that's where that's coming from. So yeah, I'm a fan of minimal. I mean, that's sort of Odyssey's approach as well, minimal damping, and maybe that the FR suffers, but it's the lesser of two evils. But depending on who you are, I think, right? Because there's probably the bigger audience is like the people who don't EQ. Looking at you, Tyler.
The devil. We know this.
The
We all know
this subject always comes up. I saw you in my stream yesterday where I was EQing.
I had to say it. It was
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah. I do need to get one of those Army ADI2s in because
I can
fiddling
send
with.
you up. Well, mine's
Nah.
the older model, but I should send it up if you want it.
Well,
it's still
I'll-
really sitting.
I probably need to get actually the like
Should get the
full
new-
Army ADI2 Pro.
Pro
like the,
FS. Mm-hmm.
No, but like there's also the Pro line,
Oh,
as in like
there's
the for the Pro audio side of things. I need to get one of those.
Those are badass.
Yeah, that would be sick. I forget if there's the name is different, but I forget
It
how.
is. I think it's.
We could look that up at some point. Okay. Were there any more questions there?
The stream.
I saw some more.
HE6 versus Susvara was one.
Oh,
That's an easy, low-hanging fruit to grab.
Alan, I'll let you take that.
Susvara is definitely going to be better, but at the same time, Susvara is literally 6 times the price.
More than that right now with the. Well, I guess
yes.
yeah, it depends which one. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on like which HE6, be it an OG, be it a used, be it an SE, right? Like with the HE6, like one of the things that made it so special within the community was just like all the different mods and changes people did, right? Whereas for me, I think the stock tuning on the Susvara is nearly perfect.
Yeah.
Right out of the box.
Yeah.
But it is even harder to drive than the HE6, which is already a feat in itself. So it is very, very amp picky. So that's one of the ones that like you're probably off the bat, like, yeah, you just look at probably a big speaker amp for it, right? Just because you're going to need a lot of power for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to change so drastically depending on which amplifier you put it on, right? It's that's the general gist of it. Like I feel like it's the HA6 itself, if you get in ideal situations, good amp, good pairing, it's like 90% of the way there to Susvara. That's just, one shows how good the HA6 is, at least in my eyes. But also just like how the extra percentage, like the extra 10%, is just like what I think the like the Susvara gets over the HE6 for 5 times the price or 6 times the price, right?
People who are like, I've talked about this in the past, but like people who go for, if you make something that you think is the best, even if it's just a little bit better than the competition, there are people who are going to buy it because it's just a little bit better. I mean, obviously we're comparing within the same brand, but you get the idea, right? Like, if something, it doesn't have to be twice the price in order for people to be willing to spend 5 times the price.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to be a little bit better. And I think the same is probably, I mean, you see the crazy jumps in all the price brackets, right? I don't know if it scales like on a linear percent like that. Same way price does. So I saw some other questions here that were pretty, this was for Alan as well. Have you heard the AB1266? You have heard the AB1266, but was that the TC, or that was the older one, right?
I think that was the older one.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that was at a CanJam RMAF. So it was a couple years back. Yeah. It's like one of those things that I always like. I know I always feel like it's such a cop out, but it's like it was an unfamiliar situation. It was unfamiliar gear, unfamiliar music, that it was so difficult to evaluate, minus a skin deep level of like, wow, bass strong. Right.
So the follow-up question to that is, based on your completely thorough analysis of the AB1266, do you think it's better than or how does it compare to the Utopia and the Susvara?
I think they're all so different, right, in many aspects. Of the 1266, it's like a behemoth. It slams like a monster. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bright at times. The Utopia can be also the same thing. Well, not at least slam level, right? But it's just like it's got that extra detail over it, right? The extra clarity that you're getting from probably that beryllium focal design from it. That it's not as punchy, obviously, as the 1266, but it's still like an excellent headphone. That like we're comparing apples, oranges, and cherries right now.
Yeah.
There's just like there's so many things that are different about it that like I can't say that like one is better than the other. I always say it always comes down to taste and preferences, right?
Yeah.
And then when you introduce like EQ into the matter, right? Even if it's like, oh, this is not the tuning that I like, well, just a little bit of EQ here and there, and then then you're at the same tuning for all the things that you like, right?
Yep. As long as the headphone can handle it.
Yeah. Susvara is still like one of my overall favorite headphones that I like. I don't like the term endgame, especially just because for me, I don't think I'm ever gonna stop. Right.
Right.
Like Susvara would be something like, cool, I got that, and then maybe in like a year I'll like see what else came out, right?
Susvara SE.
Oh no.
No.
Right. But like the Susvara, it's kind of like my ideal tuning, like right off the bat. And then it has great technicalities and great detail, and like it doesn't have the same slam as the 1266, but it's still really good. And you put it on a speaker amp, then it really opens up also. So
it's
I
funny.
like all of them.
It's funny. I would have gone the other way on the Utopia versus 1266 because, like, for me, I mean, this is the thing. Like people who are more into dynamics would disagree, but I find that the planar sort of like the 1266 to me sounded more detailed than the Utopia, and the Susvara also did, and the LCD4 also did, but the Utopia had the best frequency response out of all of them. So that was, to me, it was like and I can see again, like depending on the music that you're listening to, where which driver type you tend to gravitate towards. But that's sort of like, I guess, instrument separation quality of the planars. To me it was like that adds that extra sense of clarity to me. But yeah, I'm also definitely heavily on the Utopia train for like dynamic driver. I think it's the best and most detailed one that I've heard. So for me, the only thing with the 1266 is that I think they got to iron out the tuning a little bit. But then as Alan says, I mean, this is where EQ comes in. I don't know how many people are trying to EQ their AB1266s though. I don't know if that's really, you know.
I think also with the 1266, right? Just because it has such a weird fit on your head, right? That how would you like do like say, you know, one general EQ for everybody, right? Just because my head is different than your head and then different than everyone's head, right?
Right.
So there's so many variables in all of this, and then it also just eventually just comes down to personal taste, right?
I remember when I was at CanJam, DMS was like he was putting it on my head and then he was like moving it backward and forward and be like, how does it change? How does it, which way? Where does it sound right?
Yeah,
and it
like
never quite sounded right, but
yeah,
it was somewhat of odd. Like it had the LCD4 effect, a little bit of like the relaxed upper mids and the 14K, you know, craziness.
The only time I got a good seal with the 1260 or I got a decent sound was when one of the Abyss guys came over and adjusted it manually on my head until I got it right. Prior to that, I didn't think like, oh well, I put it on my head for like, you know, a random show like a 2014 Headphone me, and then like it doesn't fit well in my head or it's underdriven and it's like, wow, there's no bass here. And it's like, nope, it's completely wrong there. Right? It's so finicky of a headphone.
Yeah, exactly.
Barriers of entry, as I like to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's another. I mean, Tyler doesn't like the time that it takes to get to.
The less barriers in my way of listening to music, the happier I am.
See, I want to have like a little like apparatus, like a whole like rig fixture that is like that. I just I sit down and then like you know how like, you know, in Star Wars there's the scene of Darth Vader's helmet going. I want that with an AB1266, you know, and just every time I sit down in my chair, it's just like
hair adjusts.
Yeah. That's the way it's got to be. It causes me to be in excruciating pain for the entire duration of that.
It's the price you pay.
Yeah, exactly. No pain, no gain. Actually, I didn't find the AB1266 that uncomfortable. I didn't mind. I found the Diana worse for comfort.
Yeah.
Not with the DMS pads. It was great. All right, there's more questions here. Someone's asking about recommendations for a warm amp or warm sound. I'm not sure if that's. Oh, maybe you're talking about headphones. I missed that. Okay, I'll skip that one for now.
There's some interesting ones, but a lot of them just kind of.
What movies and TV shows have you guys recently enjoyed for sound design? Any movies?
What are movies and TV shows?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. No. So I have somewhat of an answer to that. The AirPods Max.
Oh yeah.
That the meme tech phone.
That.
Actually, with some of the content on Apple TV, like not Apple TV, but you know what I mean. Like you can get the subscription or whatever, right? And I was watching some of that content that did have the
stuff,
spatial audio stuff. That was really cool. That was a cool experience. It's not like the sound quality got better, but it was like the sort of binaural aspect of the whole thing was really interesting. And then my other answer is. I really liked the sound design of the James Bond like Quantum of Solace movie. I don't know if you guys it's an older movie. I think it's like the second of the Daniel Craig.
After Casino Royale.
Yeah, Casino Royale was good, but then Quantum of Solace, the movie itself is not as good as the Casino Royale, right? But the sound design was really good in Quantum of Solace. And I think it was actually good in one of the more recent ones as well. I don't remember which one though. But yeah, they did a really good job on that. Even just like watch the opening intro sequence to Quantum of Solace for the sound design. And there's like, yeah, you get what I mean. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know, but for you guys, any games that have had good sound design for you guys played, or movies? I know Precog loves gaming, so just kidding.
Yeah, totally.
Nothing really jumps out.
There's that new movie from it came out on Disney about the jazz. That was pretty good.
Soul.
Soul. That was really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Trying to think game wise.
The piano player in Soul. I mean, I listened to the soundtrack. I really like that.
Really good.
I can't remember the piano player's name, but he's on some. I think he's like one of the piano players for one of the talk shows as well. I can't remember, but I went down that rabbit hole because of the soundtrack, and then I started listening to all of his stuff as well.
Game wise, I played Cyber Shadow. It's pretty fun, but I usually when
You
I play
play
that
what?
stuff, it's Cyber Shadow. It's like a little new side scroller. It's Ninja Gaiden clone. It's just came out.
Okay.
That one has pretty cool sound, but nothing that was like screaming at me.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Nothing too crazy right now. Yeah, nothing too much that's coming to mind.
All right. I see. There's lots more questions here. Any chance of a battle between Andrew and Tyler in 2021? Ultimate solid state versus tube system under 5K.
I was trying to figure out like how to answer that one.
They meant like a battle as in like a fist fight. I would lose. I would lose horribly. Tyler would ragdoll me. It would be terrible.
I think he's trying to say like I think because I'm assuming he's talking about like solid state versus tubes battle, but I don't.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean because I'm a tube boy now too. Like I'm
so
super
it
into
doesn't quite fit.
Yeah, like I no, but to be fair, I mean traditionally I've been a solid state guy. Solid state and inefficient planars has been my jam, right? Even from the like Mr. Speaker's days to the Hifiman stuff, and that's sort of been my kind of thing. But then in recent times, especially hearing the amps and sound Kenzie, man, like it's just such a different like experience.
Concur.
I'm hyped to hear more of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if a battle is exactly the
so that's what I was trying like it'd be more of just us probably going off about how awesome tubes and certain amps are.
Yeah. I mean, we both own ZMF headphones too, so like we're very much in that sort of like like lush kind of romantic kind of sound as well. But actually, I wanted to mention, I don't think that the Verite is the right headphone for the Kenzie, and I think it's interesting talking to Justin about this because, I mean, obviously for the sound quality it is good, but the output impedances for this model specifically, and I think you could probably ask for something else, right? But like I think that for whatever reason, like I don't know if they would quite be the right ones because. And maybe Justin, I should get Justin on the live stream because he's more knowledgeable.
Yeah, he'd love to,
he's
sure.
Awesome. But on the 300 ohm out, there is a little bit of noise floor there. So it's like it is the right one as far as like sound quality goes, like in the I guess the tone that it has, but maybe not quite as far as like the synergy for like if you're wanting to get something that has no noise floor. Like you might with a solid state amplifier, right? I think you're gonna have to approach it a little differently. But yeah, I think that's also one of the reasons why the pendant exists because I think Zach loves the Anderson sound, which makes perfect sense. And then he's like, but I want it to be like even more synergistic with my stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's definitely one of those things. And then these are actually the Verite clothes specifically they're not as they're warm, but they're not as warm as like the Aeolus or like, and same with the Opens. Like they're not
interesting.
Like they have more of that.
I still need
Utopia feel.
I need to ping Zach about getting an Aeolus up for review as well. See if I can do that.
Great.
Yeah. But yeah. Actually. Did you, Tyler, did you hear anything about the Pendant SE or like the new? I know he sent an email.
I know he's working on it. I know they're pushing it out here soon.
Yeah.
I think end of February. I haven't had a chance to chat with them too much lately, but I did ping him recently and I was like, hey, sorry for not chatting too much lately. We should get together and do another chat and what have you. But I know they've been just super busy cranking out headphones, to be honest with you. It seems like they're still just like heads down cranking on headphones. So
that makes sense. I mean, yeah, especially because like pandemic's still in full swing, and I see all their like Facebook, media, social media content.
I think that was bigger than I think they were anticipating as well. Like how many people actually were gonna like it. I think it was a bigger grab than they were expecting as well. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy. Like all the ZMFs, the stabilized, they sold out in like seconds. Like
Yeah.
so it was like trying to buy a 3080 from my understanding. It's like
Yeah.
it's like I think even people were saying that they started doing bots for them and stuff. So
Oh my God, that's
insane.
crazy.
Like, yeah,
It's not good.
so.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I need to get back in touch with Zach because the dude has amazing headphones. So here's an impossible question: what's the end game headphone under $500?
I saw that. I was like,
HD 650, HD 650s and
HD
amplifier,
650.
and never look at the
Right,
internet again, or
yeah,
or
650
or 600 or whatever HD 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
one of the early Sennheisers.
Yeah. Would an Army ADI2 DAC FS be an endgame DAC amp for you guys? Again, this is the term endgame, which is like...
I think it's a great DAC. I used it for a lot of my comparison stuff just because it's leans slightly neutral. I mean, but then I personally don't think there's that many neutral DACs, if that makes sense. Well, then also define neutral for the person too, right?
What do you mean by like neutral DAC? As in like doesn't change the sound, or
yeah, like it's
shouldn't
the cleanest
all
sound.
DACs? I guess it depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, because I mean the Bifrost is definitely, I would say that leans slightly warmer, but it's DAC, so it's like it's such a minimal part of it that it's like.
See, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that like of all of my testing that I've done and switching around for different DACs and amps and stuff like that, the DACs don't change the frequency response. I've never seen like on the off the shelf ones. Like I think
off the shelf especially.
Yeah, I think for the ones that are custom or like actually even maybe I don't know about the chord stuff. I haven't really done much measuring with the chord stuff, but the biggest I gotta say like the biggest difference that I've heard among DACs was between the the off the shelf stuff and the chord stuff specifically. When I had the chord stuff,
you get to like an R2R or custom built stuff.
I think that's the FPGPA or whatever custom thing that they have. But the chord, I heard the Dave and the Hugo, one of the Hugos, and I remember being pretty blown away by the DACs there. And how different they were.
The biggest difference. Yeah, I definitely noticed. That's when I noticed the difference was when I went from off the shelf to like an R2R.
Yeah.
When I first were like, that is different. And then once and then it's such a minimal thing. Like you really shouldn't. And unless you're literally doing AB between them, it's really hard to like. I would have a hard time if even possible for me to really be like AB pick blind testing. That's the whatever one.
But I do think like to answer that question. Would Army ADI2 FS be an endgame DAC amp? Not amp, but
not the amp, but yeah, the DAC.
No, but the DAC portion, like it would be endgame in the sense that it has way more flexibility in its functions and features than I think anything else. I can't think of anything else that has that kind of functionality to it. So it would be an endgame in that sense if that's what you care about.
Especially for the price, like the amount of stuff they shoved into that thing for the price is bonkers. Like it's a fantastic little unit.
Yeah, so. Maybe is the answer. I like the Matrix X Saber Pro for well, I mean it was the DAC that had the ESS. It was the ESS based DAC that didn't have the glare, so it had all the benefits of the resolution and the slightly more analytic presentation compared to like a Burr Brown based DAC without any of the drawbacks. So
see Burr Browns to me are those you can tell difference. Like
they're smoother. They're
like
those are.
A warmth to those, or I wouldn't say warmth, like what do people like to say, sweet or gooey? Is that one of the terms that like people use for those? I
mean, to me, like I have heard some like the higher end implementations of the Burr Browns are less. They're a little more analytic as well. So I don't know if it's like uniquely Burr Brown or if it's like just the way that they've because it's all IFI stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but. For me now, I'm happy with the ES903 Pro chip, the way that it's being implemented without IMD humps. I'm pretty happy about that.
Hopefully, more of them come out with better implementation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no AKM anymore, right? So, so that's we don't get the velvet sound anymore. We have to deal with the cheese grater ESS stat. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
no longer cheese graters for ESS. But no, it's like to answer that question again, the Matrix X Saber Pro, the reason why I like it so much is because it is the closest to like a reference kind of DAC that I could like reference as in like I'm measuring headphones here, and I when you're doing that kind of stuff, you want something that is not going to affect, like, for both DAC and amp. It's not just about, like, wanting it to sound good. You want it to be something where it can be consistent and reliable, and then there's lots of information already about them, so that way you can kind of square what you're measuring with what other people have measured as well, and it's all comparable and all makes sense. Because the last thing you would want is to, like, I think as much as I liked that Rupert Neve DAC, I don't think I would use it for measurements, because I think that is actually changing the sound a little bit too much. So for reference, I think, the more like a quote unquote like transparent kind of equipment is probably better. But I've been having a lot of fun measuring headphones off of the tube amp and seeing what the impedance changes do to various different headphones. I said in my yesterday's live stream that the Focal headphones would be fine off of the open backs, but actually after now testing with the Focal Clear, even on the low impedance out, it does change it too much. It like warn't, like, if you thought the Clear was too bright, which I don't, it would just clockwise tilts it like crazy. So I don't know but the other ones would probably be fine, like the Utopia and the Illyr and the Alex would probably be fine. Anyways, that's a rant. Alan, do you have a story for us yet?
I did think of one.
Okay.
As I've told it before in Discord, but
okay.
So last year at the Source AV, we overall, we sold a lot of equipment, be it from headphones to speaker equipment to cables, right? And when it comes to the high-end aftermarket cable market, right, they get really pricey and they attract very interesting people, to say the least. So last year, right before the pandemic really started and kicked in, we had a customer that called us, and he was looking at a $275 USB-C adapter dongle, right? A very expensive thing that's very audiophile kind of, that kind of a crowd. And he said oh, I already bought 3 of them. It's $275 and you bought 3 of them. It's yeah, the first one I got was perfect. It sounded great, looked great, but the other 2 I got, they look bad.
What was the difference in how they look?
What?
It he was saying there was some issue with the heat shrink. It didn't look great.
Oh,
so the dealers that he got them from, he returned them, and then he called us to see hey, can I order it, and what's the return policy? And I half of me, I was well, I don't want to just sell a thing that I have to special order that I know I'm going to get a return on. But at the same time, let me consult the boss and let him know what's happening, right? So I talked to the boss, and the boss himself was a little perplexed, but he was sure, if he's not happy with it, we'll take back the return, right? So we order it for him, and even Nordos calls us and is hey, if it's for this guy, be aware he's a serial returner guy. It's oh, don't worry, I well know, right?
Yeah.
So he gets it, or we get it into our store, and then he was hey, can you open it before it goes out? And it's sure, right? So I open it and I look at it, and it looks like there's one little kind of mark on the heat, a heat shrink, just a little mark. It was really small, but I told him in advance. I sent him pictures. I sent him all the stuff to make sure it would be fine, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, it doesn't look perfect, but whatever, go ahead, send it to me anyways. Okay, sure, right? So I send it to him, and he goes, well, after listening to this new one, it sounds even better than my first one. What?
So this is within the realm of the people who are buying SD cards, special SD cards for their.
I still can't get over that.
Yeah. And that's not where it ends.
Okay.
But so he likes the sound of it. He says it sounds even better than his first one, but he's not still happy about how it looks. So he's like, hey, can I, talk to the boss again? It's like, sure. So I transfer him to the boss, and the boss makes a call to Nordos. And it's like, hey, we were told this. And like, we made arrangements that they would actually RMA the first one, and they would send us a brand new, freshly made new one that they would inspect to make sure there's no any visual imperfections with this newest one, right? So it's like, okay, yeah. So we authorize the RMA, and then they send it to us, and I tell the customers like, hey, it's here, just send back the old one, and we'll just swap you out with the new one, right? It's like, well, would it be possible if I can get the new one before I send back the old one? It's like, yeah, if you gave me another $275, right? Because I'm on the hook, right? If you don't, if I send you the second one, and they never get the first one back, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, fine for me to charge him another $275 on this, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And I was running a credit card over the phone for him, and then he starts going and telling me, it's like, yeah, Alan, what I did was I got Nestle Pure Life bottled water, and I cleaned the connectors, and it sounds even better now.
Wait,
what
did he do? He took bottled water, but specifically Nestle Pure Life water, and cleaned the USB connectors. Oh my god. It's just like, what? So okay, I'm just like, I'm on the phone and I'm like, what? But like, I'm really nice to the guy, and it's like, okay, cool, man, I got your card charged, I'll get this thing out today, right? So I sent it to him, he gets it, and then he says, well, it looks visually perfect, but I still like the sound of the second one I got from you. Like the first one we got from us, but like the second one he got overall, right? Right.
He's like, I like that second one sound more. And I also rearranged and realigned the heat shrink, so now it sounds even better.
Realigning the heat shrink. Oh my god.
Yes. And I made the mistake, and I called him once on my cell phone, my personal number. And the amount of like text he would send afterwards. And it was just like, this dude like blew my mind kind of thing. And like Nordos, they called me and it's like, okay, how's the situation going? And I even told them, I was like, yeah, the guy said he cleaned the connectors with Nestle Pure Life water, and that made a change, and also he realigned the heat shrink, and that made it better. And even Nordos rep was like, what?
Should have used Asanji water. I know that's the best. Or Fuji's the best.
Oh, is it?
And it's like, are you sure this guy's not joking? It's like, no, he sent me like hundreds of texts last weekend. He is completely 100% serious.
Jeez.
Of like his beliefs on this stuff, on like the cables making a difference. It was so intense.
Yeah.
And then, it's like, okay, so it sounds like he likes the sound of both of them, so he'll kind of keep them. But like the Nordos rep was like, well, just in case, we'll go ahead and keep the RMA active, just in case he changes his mind. Which 2 weeks later he decides, oh yeah, I'm gonna send back the second one. I was like,
That sounds like a real hassle.
It was such a pain. And then like the next like 2 months with him like texting me about like, I like it, and then he said, but it made the sound more gay. It's like,
oh, this guy. Okay, yeah. This guy.
And I'm just like, how does a USB?
He has to be trolling at this point.
He was like dead serious, and I'm like wondering, like, how does a USB dongle sound gay?
Was this the TV guy too? Like
yes.
Okay, yeah. I've seen this text. It's legit.
Oh my goodness.
He was like, oh, I also want to upgrade my TV because, the Source AV sold TVs.
Right, yeah.
And he was like, I looked at the YouTube videos for the Sony A9G, and I thought that the colors looked too, again, he called it gay. It's like,
I don't get that.
What?
That's like, yeah.
I don't know. There's so many like things
weird,
with
man.
him. Yeah, he was out there.
They're strange.
Yeah.
I can't see this is the one downside with like an industry where, okay, like not everything is, you know, in fact, most things are not snake oil and placebo and whatever else, right? But some things are, and some things are like there's psychoacoustic effects, and like with that stuff, like I don't know, like there are bound to be people like that guy, you know, where I mean, the question is, like, here's sort of like a more of a philosophical question on that, right? Does he actually hear a difference? Because I mean, we know obviously there is no actual difference there, but does he actually hear a difference?
Like
you know?
his perception of
does he you know does the convincing of it from the framing effects and the psychoacoustic effects? Because if you think about it in many ways, even just when you're comparing, like, you know, say you listen to like an LCDX for a while, or Focal Utopia for a while, it's like a really detailed headphone for a while, and like you can kind of get used to that, and then you go and listen to like a K371 or something a little bit more like, you know, less detailed, like a more, you know, very budget headphone. You're like, okay, well, obviously, you know, the difference is pretty significant, but I kind of got used to that, you know, Utopia sound or whatever it was, the detail there, right? And then you realize that like a lot of what constitutes as like detail is what draws your attention, and the difference that you hear when you're swapping between, you know, this stuff. But once you sort of start to kind of like acclimate and get normalized to the sound that you're listening to for a while, because you're not comparing it with anything else, you don't have that extra sort of like attention grabbing effect where you go, oh wow, this is clearly way better than the other thing, you know, that I had before. And so what I'm wondering is, like, you know, does it help him with paying attention to things? And maybe that's where he's like getting that sort of extra perception there of detail, because it's like he's actively trying to pay attention for differences that he believes really are there. And so maybe, and this is something I've talked with Matt Economist about as well, but like maybe these sort of psychoacoustic effects actually do cause people to you know, hear them as more detailed, or hear them as better, or more gay, as he put it. I don't.
I probably
twists. They all exist, and we just don't hear them. Like
maybe
that's what I've always wondered. Like, you know, maybe this stuff actually happens. We just aren't able to hear it. But, you know, that's unlikely.
He's evolved.
He's next level. He's, you know, that picture of like where it's like the different brains, and then it's like the bottom one. He's at the bottom. Yeah, exactly.
See, I was just commenting in the chat, like, I wonder what the different flavors of LaCroix, how that would factor.
Yeah.
I mean, is grapefruit the best, or is, you know, one of the other ones, like a berry or something?
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. I see another question here. Can you have the cable guy on the show, please? I don't know who the cable guy is. Like, do you mean the cable guy who goes and wires up your house for like internet, or like
this cable guy?
Probably the guy I was telling you.
Yeah, the guy he was talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't talked to him in like half a year.
Yeah. I can't see that. There's like people often ask, like, can we, you know, get so and so on because it'd be drama, like whether it's like Amy or you know, the DT990 guy, or, you know, there's a bunch of people who it's like people want that, and I'm just like, is that really an interesting conversation? I don't think that's an interesting conversation.
I think at that point it's just memeing on something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Amir would be an interesting conversation, I think, but
I would.
Yeah, Android says he's a nice guy, so I'm open to it. Zeos as well, I'd be open to that. Maybe we'll make that happen one day.
But you don't see his face.
Yeah,
I got you covered. Let's do this.
We all have to use GoPros. That's how that. I've been actually thinking about getting a GoPro, because like one of the things I want to do, especially with like IEM reviews, is I want to do them outside somewhere, especially, well, maybe not right now, but you know, it'd be nice to eventually be able to, you know, get out of this, you know, and do some more reviews outside. I tried doing one once, and it went terribly, because it was like I'd start, and then like people would walk by, like like, I feel weird talking about headphones.
Yeah, no, right? It's really awkward when you're trying to do that outside.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a few more questions, and then we'll call it. Kurwong believes cables make a difference. Actually, on that subject, I have it over there. Danda sent me his. He sent me the Stelliance, which is something. I don't recommend people do this, but what he did was it's a very expensive mod, but he took the Stellia driver and put it in his Radiance. So he's got a Radiance with a Beryllium driver, and I don't think it worked out. I mean, like only because it did something weird to the bass. But he seems to like it a lot, and but he also sent me some aftermarket cables, and he's wanting me to test that out to see if it changes my mind on being a cable believer. So I'll do that, and maybe I don't know, maybe by the next live stream we do, you'll find out that I'm a cable believer. Because I mean, to me, it's like it would be one of those things that are like, it would be so cool if it actually did, and that it changes the orthodoxy and the paradigm and like all that stuff that people tend to agree on, that cables don't really make a difference. So it'd be an interesting thing if it actually turns out that it did, and we're all just we're small braining it here.
Sorry. Well, I think if you look at the science of it, I mean, every material has different
Sorry,
capabilities.
I see Corinne says,
but I mean,
the biggest problem is using Nestle over EVN.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, well, as I said, it's more just down to like it's sure there might be differences in the cables, but how much can you actually hear with that? If we are even capable of hearing those differences is really the bigger issue of it than anything else.
Right.
Especially on such short runs for headphones. Right. So
yeah.
But
yeah. Or maybe stuff's being introduced. I don't know. Maybe stuff's being introduced in the cables where it's like some analog thing that's actually altering the sound deliberately, not just.
Maybe there's something else inside the split.
Yeah, putting DSP in the cable.
There's a resistor in there or something. That's
yeah. Oh, someone says it's not for drama. I think I would be really interested. It would be really interesting. Aimer is thoughtful.
Thoughtful.
And hear him explain how he thinks measurements translate to the experience might be nice. Yeah, I'd like to have that conversation, right? What I don't want is the conversation about squabbling over abyss measurements.
Yeah.
Which is the drama
which
that
will happen.
People,
that
yeah,
will probably
exactly.
happen.
Yeah. Because actually, I kind of agree with what Jude said about that more than you can't have one seating. I'm sorry,
that's not good.
Doesn't work. When are the tube amp reviews coming out? Next week. Next week I'll be doing a review of the Kenzie. Not I'll be doing it next week, so you'll see it sometime near the end of that week. But yeah, more tube amp reviews. This is a thing that's been a learning process. I think it's tough to review tube amps when you basically have to throw all the data out the window.
Every tube changes, right? So
I don't know how to talk about it in terms of anything objective. And even I was talking with Justin about that, and he's laughing at me. He's like, "You want to know how the sauce is made, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to know. What is it about?" He's telling me all this stuff. He has all the technical information.
Iron. The answer is iron. More
yeah,
iron.
Right? But he knows, right? So he's trying to tell me about this stuff, and I'm like, "But what I'm seeing in my measurements here, nothing is different. So what? But clearly it sounds different. So what is causing this?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, this is just tubes. This is just yeah." So, but he has a very nuanced and very intelligent approach to I guess a view of measurements and attitude towards measurements, which I think is worth actually having him on the show and talk about as well, because I tend to agree a lot with a lot of what he says. I think it's illuminating, which is really good.
Fun guy to talk to.
Yeah, I think there are more voices like his need to be heard in the community, because right now there's these debates about data versus objective versus, and he's like, it's not really about that. Yeah. Anything else that you guys see there?
Mostly it's just the tube stuff. Someone did say we should somehow get onto this show called Between Two Speakers.
Oh yeah, actually,
so
I might be chatting with the person who does that at some point. DMS, I think, was the one who is trying to connect me with that person. Yeah, I'd love to. I think the one he had on recently was New Record Day, and I'm actually I'm surprised and also impressed at how well that dude did, because it is the same kind of setup as Between Two Ferns, right? It's sort of trolling it's an interview
people.
where he trolls people, but the guy from New Record Day was hilarious. So yeah, I mean, I'm not into vinyl at all, but that channel is actually awesome, the New Record Day guy.
I'll check it out. The Cheap Audio Man. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I have He's seen his
Yeah. The hybrid tube amps. What do you all think? The hybrid tube amps. I've never really. I've like the only one that I've tried. Like I used to actually have a hybrid tube amp from Hifiman, and I still have it somewhere, but the knob fell off, and I just don't use it. Tyler's laughing. It's true. It's true. It was the EF5, and the knob fell off, and that. But no,
continue.
The only one that I actually like, the only evaluation of a hybrid tube amp that I could give is maybe the CTH Mass-Drop CTH, but that died on me within 10 minutes of use. Like it lit, like the tube literally cracked, and then it made a pop sound, and smoke came out, and it's terrible. So, and they replaced it. You know, they didn't replace. They gave me a full refund, which was great. But for the 10 minutes that I got to try it, it sounded good. So.
Yeah. One of the tube hybrids that I'm pretty interested at, that I saw that someone actually mentioned a little bit earlier, was the new Macintosh tube amp.
Oh yeah,
for a headphone amp, right?
It's not Apple. That's the Macintosh Audio.
Yes,
brand.
yes. You know, the one that's been around for 70 plus years, right? You know, at the source, we were a big Macintosh dealer, like a reference dealer. So for me, I heard a lot of the Macintosh products and really liked how it sounded. Like the MHA 150, that was one of my favorite solid state amps.
Yeah.
But it was also like $5,000, so I was like, that's a lot of money, right? Yeah. For me, like the MA252, that was a 100-watt hybrid solid state tube amp that when I put on the raw SR1A on it, on the HE6, LCD4, that was like a fantastic amplifier for it. It was amazing of a pairing. And with the MHA 200, their new hybrid, it seems like it's not a whole ton of power. It's something like 500 milliwatts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can select the impedance and it will remain consistent. So it sounds like it actually has impedance matching on it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting headphone amp, and it's also $2,500, so half the price of the MH150, right? And then that price point, I'm really interested on that thing, and it looks really nice. It looks like a Macintosh product, and well made like one. But I'm probably also going to guess that those things are going to be completely sold out within the first 5 seconds because everybody's sold out of everything right now.
Yeah. Oh. Lost Tyler for a second. I'm assuming it's because he's got no pants on and he has to stand up.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, I need to try some of like there's like the shit audio, hybrids and stuff. I don't know. This is just my like random speculation on the subject, but I imagine that like as far as like hybrid tube amps, the like I don't know. It seems fairly saturated in the like mid-level, entry-level to mid-level market for hybrid tube amps. That's where you see a lot of this stuff. And my experience with tubes in general has been like the mid-level stuff is not really that special. It's when you get into the like higher end stuff like the Kenzie that it's like a big like, oh my God, right? And it really is worth the investment, I think. And the pendant as well, and those and Glen OTL and whatever else, right? That stuff. So what I wonder is, does that same kind of thing hold true for hybrid amps? Are there hybrid amps that I haven't tried that are in this higher end, like what you were saying, Alan, about the $2,500 one? Yeah, I'm wondering if like that, I guess, is still true there as well. So I guess it's just a matter of needing to try more stuff.
Yeah.
And, getting more exposure to that stuff. I mean, that like even just talking with the guys in the Discords and stuff like that, where it's like there are so many amps out there that are worth trying that I haven't. Like Flux keeps wanting to send me the dangerous music stuff, and I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah. The issue with all the amplifiers out there, right, is it's a lot easier to just like take a headphone and send a headphone.
Yeah.
Right. Transporting and sending a DAC or an amp, right?
Yeah.
It's really expensive. It's really big. And especially with tubes, right? Oh, I sent you all this stuff and I sent you my favorite tubes, but one of them broke during transportation, right? And just like, oh my God. So the whole entire thing, it's not operational until you can get a new tube, right?
Right,
And then,
right.
you know, if it's multiple tubes, it's I have to get the match tubes, right?
Yeah.
So I can totally understand that. Like one of the nice things that I remember fondly about the Source was just we had so much gear, like actual like Source gear.
Yeah.
That would be like, cool, let's play around with this stuff, right? But,
Tyler's back with the dog.
doggo.
Oh, Tyler, you muted.
Martin wanted to see her, so I went and grabbed her real quick.
How's she doing?
She's still. I actually literally just took off her collar or her cone, but yeah,
What a
she's
shame.
doing pretty good. Had to have surgery. But anyways, that's the doggo for the day. I'll go turn her off.
Well, I think we're probably gonna end the stream here. We've been going for 2 hours now, so yeah. I want to big thanks to everybody for joining, and of course, big thanks to Alan, and welcome Alan to the I guess our world. And thanks to everybody for joining in the chat and all of your questions. We'll be sure to be on next week as well. Look forward to more live streams and more content from the headphones.com content team. Alrighty.
All right. Take care, guys.
Everybody.
Welcome Alan. I guess our world. And thanks to everybody for joining in the chat and all of your questions. We'll be sure to be on next week as well. Look forward to more live streams and more content from the headphones. Alrighty.